Hello, Namaskar, welcome to the Saar analysis. I am Chaman Nayak and here's my take. Tonight, a simple but a critical question. What happens when deterrence fails, diplomacy weakens and every side believes it cannot afford to blink? Because this is exactly where the Middle East finds itself today. Well, the fragile ceasefire that offered a brief pause between Israel and Iran is now hanging by a thread. Where Iran's Revolutionary Guard claims that it launched a round of missile attack targeting to Israel air bases and a petrochemical facility, while Israel military officials report that nearly 30 ballistic missiles were fired from the Iranian territory. Well, in response, Israel carried out a large-scale attacks across major regions, while the explosions were reported across major regions that hold significantly military, industrial and strategic value. And perhaps the most important signal isn't what has already happened, it's what both sides are preparing for next. Where Israel authorities have begun transferring the patients into underground medical facilities, while the military leadership has openly stated that operation could continue as long as it takes. Well, that statement matters because nations do not move civilians underground when they expect a short conflict, and they do it when they are preparing for escalation. Meanwhile, another front is opening. Well, Yemen Houthis have entered the equation once again, launching a ballistic missiles toward Israel for the very first time since April and announcing a complete ban on Israeli maritime navigation through Red Sea. If enforced, that threatens one of the world's most shipping corridors. And when shipping lanes are threatened, energy market react. And when energy market react, inflation follows. And when inflation follows, economies thousands of miles away begin to feel the consequences. Even here in India, adding another layer of complexity is the role of United States. Well, the President Donald Trump has publicly demanded that both Israel and Iran stop fighting immediately. Yet reports suggest that Israeli operations continue despite calling for restraint. Well, Iran meanwhile accuses not only to the Israel but also to the United States commanding involvement in attacks. Whether those accusations are true or not, perception often shapes geopolitics as much as reality, and that perception is making diplomacy increasingly difficult. Well, the biggest story here is not simply missile airstrikes or military target. The bigger story is emergence of regional confrontation involving Israel, Iran, Hezbollah-linked terrorists, Houthis, American interests, energy infrastructure, and critical maritime routes. Well, the history teaches us that wars rarely expand because leaders want them to. Well, they expand because every side believes in acting defensively while other sides choose aggression. And that cycle becomes dangerously self-sustaining. Well, the question is no longer whether tension exists or not. The question is whether diplomacy can move faster than escalation. And before I leave you, well, let me ask you a question. In a world where every citizen prioritizes security over compromise, are we becoming safer? Or simply moving closer to conflicts that nobody truly intends to fight? Well, this is Chaman Nayak. Thank you for the Saar analysis. I will be back with another episode. Till then, watch this.